Welcome back to my channel, my friends. In my last video, I have talked about the 3 steps that make you feel and see your own personal progress, especially for long-term goals. Therefore, in this video, I would like to dive deep into my own personal running progress of the past year, which was a long-term goal and still is a long-term goal for myself because I'm preparing for my first ever marathon right now, and want to show you how real progress as a beginner can look like, because the curves are noisy. It looks nothing like anything you see in a school book. It's just an honest review of how my progress looks like, and you will see that it's sometimes as a beginner even hard when you track to actually find the progress in the data. Therefore, in this video, I would like to describe how my visualizations look like and how you can find the progress in your data and what you can look out for. It's pretty honest, and I hope that you enjoy it and that you see that it is hard for any beginner out there. And I wanted to share that because sometimes as beginners we feel so lonely with our journey because it doesn't look as nice as for people that are doing this for years and years, which is completely different to when you really first start out with no prior experience in any other endurance sport or whatever. So yeah, I hope you enjoy. And if you do, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. It means the world. And let's dive right in. Just as a small disclaimer, my professional background is in computer and cognitive science. So the plots that I'm about to show you, I actually plotted by using programming languages. So maybe if you're not able to do the coding yourself, you can always rely on the software that is on most phones, the apps that actually already visualize the data that you track with your fitness tracker, or when you are doing your physical notebook data collection, you can either go through the pages by saying, okay, I pick every 5th page and look into it to get like a bigger picture, or you can dedicate a certain page in your notebook and maybe draw a little grid there where you can track the data points, which then in the end you can connect to a graph as well or something like that. Possibilities are endless. This is just the way I did it because it felt most sustainable for me. One of the things that I'm using the visualizations that I'm about to show you for is because I have started to prep for a marathon, but I want to start this journey by actually being realistic about what I could achieve in the past few months already, to be realistic about what I'm probably capable of achieving in the next few weeks and months of preparing for the race now. Because I don't want to go in with too high of expectations, but also don't want to go in and be unmotivated when things feel hard, because there will be sessions that are quite long, and preparing for a marathon compared to a half marathon is a completely different story. And I do this to be able to have like a clear starting point, knowing that I'm capable of doing realistic progress, but not being like all in the clouds with my head thinking I'm running a, I don't know, sub 4-hour marathon or anything, because that's not going to happen. Okay, let's have a look into the plots. You see in this plot that I show you the weekly running distance categorized into the different training zones that we have talked about. So instead of the 5 heart rate zones, I chose the 3 running zones here to make it a little bit more easy to look at. And then in black, you see the total distance for that week. Also, I've highlighted the dedicated half marathon prep training period, and also the little blue one is for my marathon training, which I have already started. And this is the data that I had collected until the point where I started coding this stuff. You can see here that usually in all the weeks, I'm mostly ranging between 10 and 27 kilometers. It fluctuates from week to week. I am working and studying, so I don't fix myself upon anything that is not sustainable. I will now put on the screen the weekly running duration by zone, and you see the plot doesn't look very much different, so I don't want to go into too much detail of this. You also see running volume and hours were quite high when I started out on the treadmill and tried a lot of things there. And then also when I started around May to also try things outside and stuff like that, where a lot was still in zone 2. And then you see, which I think is quite interesting, that for the half marathon prep, the volume in the hours actually is lower. And I now put both plots side to side, because you can see that the volume is actually not as low as the time for the weeks of the half marathon prep. And so you can see that my progress there probably was that I created or followed a training plan which was more effective, but also maybe this could mean that my pace for the slow runs improved by that time and I was able to do more distance in less time. The most important thing that you can see there is unrelated to any stats or how well you did or how high the volume was or the hours you spent and anything like that. It's just to see visualized in front of me that I have stuck to it for such a long time, and this is something I can be proud of without connecting it to anything that is related to the stats that I have actually collected. It's just to see it's already been that long and I have not quit, and I can be proud of myself and celebrate that I'm still doing things and still working to improve. The other thing that I have plotted and I wanted to get really realistic about is not the distance and time as such, as I have shown you already, but it's my pace and my heart rate that I have collected with my smartwatch, because I wanted to see whether I can see any patterns that kind of make sense to explain things to myself and maybe to improve my approach for the next step in my running journey that is coming up for me. So you can see here that I have plotted my average heart rate and the pace per run. So you see the scale on the right hand side in blue and also the blue line, as well as the purple line for the pace trend, and then my pace for each run. And then on the left hand side you see the scale for the heart rate, and you see the heart rate trend line in red and the heart rate as such in the blue line plot. And so you see the differences. It all looks a bit much to look at, but the easiest thing to grasp is probably the trend line. The red one, which is the heart rate, it starts very slow. This was the beginning when I was on the treadmill and really focused, and then you see it goes up, and this is the moment when I went outside and tried to run outside for the first time. And as you know from the videos that I have created before, it was not easy to stay in that low heart rate at the beginning. It was all exciting, it was all new to me, and I needed to kind of adjust to it, and my heart rate was higher. You see that my pace also goes up in that time. So I started with a pace probably that was way too fast. I adjusted the pace, also then my heart rate adjusts, because as my pace goes up, my heart rate goes down. And then you see for the half marathon prep in general, my pace got faster and the heart rate only at the end was shooting up and not so much in the middle. So it kind of looks like that in the time I have improved. Then afterwards, around December, the pace was quite fast, but still the heart rate was not nearly as high as it was for a slower pace around May or June of 2024. So that is an improvement as well, and that is something that you can look out for yourself as well then when you're comparing these things, because this is the progress that I have made, even though the data still looks wavy because it's a real journey. Of course it still can be confusing, but comparing these things then lets me see, okay, I have already made progress and I am capable of now running a faster pace, even though the pace is still very slow, and I know that, but I'm just a beginner and I need to accept that, that I do that for fun beside all the other projects that I have in my life, and I'm still able to improve. And then, because all the visualization and feeling the progress and all that was to prepare myself for the next step or the next phase, which I started in January this year, I wanted to get really clear of what was about to come for me. I then plotted all the training sessions that I have planned, which I briefly show you here. That makes it even more bigger picture, because it takes my journey that I have already and plots my planned training sessions. I know I could deviate from it. I don't know if I'm going to do all sessions as they are planned. And the only reason why I tell you and show you this is that taking your journey, the data that you have collected, and combine it with the sessions that you have planned, you can see in the bigger picture a different type of progress, because I see that the volume for the period that is about to come is even higher than anything that I've done before. So going into that journey, knowing what I did and that I could improve with this little training, and then being able to do the sessions and show up for myself each and every week will already give me the feeling of progress while I'm on my journey, because I think, okay, this is so different compared to anything that I had done before. And that means even if my paces might not improve at all, or not as much as I wish for, because you see all these incredible athletes online that show their paces and you might feel very small when comparing yourself to them. You are now able to see that you have made a form of progress when comparing just the volume, not any stats about the paces or anything like that, but that just by being able to complete the trainings, you already have made progress for yourself. And for me, therefore, seeing it all big picture made me able to think back to the time when I did the first few 10K runs and being all excited about it and feeling that it was a big task to do and a big distance for me personally at that time. And now a 10K, just a few months later, is one of the shorter runs that I do. And so I'm able to think back to these moments and feel the improvement of being able to casually do something which in the past was very hard to do. And don't get me wrong, my mindset has changed, but we have seen in the plots, my paces are not that much different compared to the beginning. Yes, I have improved, but it's slow. For me, it's only been a year of running and that I got into it, and I had no experience with endurance performance before. So it's all very new, and I know that it takes years to actually improve and get to a point where you're like, okay, now I get the hang of this. But I think the steps and the progress that you have made, and really force yourself to actually see them and actually look for them, is something very beautiful that you can do for yourself. Like right now for me, before my marathon prep, I did this looking back to get this little boost to get in the next kind of phase that you're planning to go for. That for me personally means looking back. And for some people, they say never look back, just focus on the future, just focus on the next goals that you have set for yourself and stuff like that. But I think it's sometimes very, very important to stop, to breathe for a second, look back, and feel your progress, to then be able to continue to do what you are doing, or maybe adjust to do it even better, to not get burned out and being happy for what you are doing. So even though data sometimes might be confusing and might not look as clear as you wish it would, always remember that what you have done already, which is staying consistent and trying to improve further and further into the future, is already progress in itself. And with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. It was very honest, maybe even kind of a bit embarrassing to be so open and public about how average I am after putting quite some work into this running thing. But I think this is just part of what real life is about, and I think that the internet needs a bit of raw honesty, especially from beginner to beginner, so that we don't feel like failures when we see incredible athletes just doing these incredible performances. But this is just them being in a completely different part of their journey and sharing that, and people are looking up to that. But yeah, I think sometimes the world needs also us beginners to share how that looks like, so that we can all relax and know that this is part of the journey as well. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like and subscribe button and comment what your journey is that you're on, or if this video helped in any way. I'm very curious about that. And with that being said, I'd say stay curious, look after yourself, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.